All right, what is going on, everyone? Hope everyone is having an awesome weekend. It is Sunday, so we are technically not doing the normal top stocks live stream right now. That'll be tomorrow night, but I figured I want to join in or jump on, talk about some Bitcoin stocks. And that's something that I talk too much about, but I have some videos on some of these stocks, but I want to kind of go over a bunch of these Bitcoin related stocks, put them up and talk about Bitcoin right now. What do we got going on, and see what we can find or figure out from here. So it looks like Bitcoin on the 1 hourly, for those who are jumping in on the 1 hourly chart right now, it's setting up like just consolidation, push up, consolidation, push up, and it kind of has these little flag setups, that kind of keep forming every day or so, which to me looks very bullish, continuing to put in higher lows. We hit just shy of 50,000. That's the high on Bitcoin as of right now. So, look at this chart the past couple of days. Just beautiful to the upside. And really, it was kind of crazy. This was the downtrend, rough downtrend line that we have drawn in here. And a beautiful kind of, break out of that downtrend and push up. And we kind of have, another downtrend kind of break right up in here that happened Friday into the weekend. And so, yeah, it looks like to me, Bitcoin was going to probably make a shot to 50K, by some point tonight or tomorrow, if I had to guess. And then we'll see. That's potentially going to be a strong resistance. Maybe it's just a psychological level, but I think it could easily break through. So we're going to have to see how that goes. I would not be surprised if we wake up Tuesday morning and Bitcoin's over 50K, potentially, 51, 52, who knows, and that's going to send a lot of crypto, related stocks. So we're going to kind of pick, curate a big list of them so that you kind of have a lot of places to look. So there's a bunch. I'm not a huge OTC guy, but if you want to leave them in the chat, go feel free. I'm not a huge OTC player myself. I mostly just stick to. Well, I first of all use Webull. I do have an OTC play, but it's actually a shroom play that I'm actually in, and that's on my TD Ameritrade. A lot of people have been having issues with TD Ameritrade this weekend, from what I've been seeing, that they've been messing around with people's accounts and account values. I don't think it's actually a huge deal. I didn't notice anything in my account personally. I think it should be fixed by Tuesday. They usually like to do updates and whatnot on the weekend, so we'll see. NXTD is definitely one. Let me actually pull up my Bitcoin list. I definitely have to add more to this, but I have a few right off the bat. So let me actually see if I can add. There is one that I want to add into this Bitcoin list right away, is SOS. I don't think I haven't had that one on yet. So, okay. NXTD I played before. Where is that bad boy? NXTD, here it is. So where did it hit? Yeah, it's been pretty volatile. This is the crazy thing. It's been super volatile as of late, but I think I bought NXTD when it kind of was up in here and falling back down, and I kind of averaged down, and then I sold into the spike. So I made my money on that one. Ideally, down towards 150 would have been a great entry if you can get anything under 175 on Friday. Even Wednesday, you could have got under 175. And that paid off Thursday, Friday. It was a weird day on Friday because, to be honest, on Friday, it seemed like Bitcoin was kind of stagnating or wasn't really pushing up too much. But a lot of these kind of sympathy stocks, right? These Bitcoin sympathy stocks, whether they're miners, they're this, they're that, they have different crypto exchanges in the back. They were pushing up too. So, for example, Ebon was one that pushed up. And, Thursday, I don't think Bitcoin was weak, but it was kind of falling down. But it came down to that 50 SMA, which, if you guys know me, I love the 50 SMA as a bounce zone and a lot of a solid support buy area for a lot of stocks, not just penny. It could be any stock, DPW I like a lot, actually. I'm actually in DPW. So let's pull it up. Where do I have it on a list here? Definitely. Do I? Maybe I don't. No, yeah, here it is. DPW, look at this chart setup. Beautiful. 50 SMA support sitting just below where it's at, so it's got some solid support to the downside if it does come down towards $5. At this rate, it doesn't look like it's going to. They have they have ties to Bitcoin mining, and they have EV charging ties. So you kind of have multiple different business models kind of going on in the background, which, say what you want to say about that is, whatever. At the end of the day, we trade it, and that's at least how I see it. I trade off of that, what's hot, and it's in a hot sector. Chart setup is good, and also the company came out and said that they have the best balance sheet they've had in quite some time. That was one of their latest PRs. So the threat of an offering, yeah, of course, it's always there for any stock, but the threat of that seems to be at least minimized for right now. So I'm in DPW. I like it. I want to see it make a push up over this 650, and then we can see if it can get interesting. You know, obviously, I think DPW is the type of company that I would not be surprised come let's say Bitcoin's over 50K. Come Monday, or come Tuesday, actually, they drop a PR. Or come like some point this week, they drop a press release, a nice juicy press release about an update on their Bitcoin miners or whatever, and the stock runs. I mean, that's just kind of the market that we're in, and that's the type of company that they are. They've done it before. I mean, we played this chart setup before, like, right? So when they had this breakout of this downtrend, right, we had one nice day pushing up over two, and then literally the next day was a Monday, boom, they drop PR, thing blows up. So I would... You know, a lot of times, I like to say this too, good news finds a good chart. So this is a solid looking chart. I wouldn't be surprised for some good news to pop this thing even further. FTFT is another one. That one I should probably add to the list too. FTFT. Oh, there's so many that I keep missing sometimes. I'll go through the entire list that I have, and then we'll literally just, you know, one by one, we'll go through the whole thing, and we'll see which ones look the best. Let's see. USO is, I mean, I'm not in USO. I've been using that as kind of like a, you know, to get a sense of the overall oil, I guess, sector. So oil related stocks that I like to trade, the low floats, you know, what we got, ENSV, you have CEI, you have HUSA, USCG, plenty of oil stocks to go around. Those things, when they go nuts. And that was actually, I think back in June was the last time that they really went crazy, and they had, you know, multiple 100% gains on a lot of these stocks in like 1 or 2 days. And I remember that was like, and I was in with a significantly smaller account back then. That was like an insane day in terms of, you know, how percentage gains on some of those plays. And I sold way too early too, but I had a bunch of them. I was accumulating a bunch of oil plays, and they all went, so it was nuts. But USO, look at this, hitting over 40. So now let's see how USO opens on Monday, and then we'll go from there. But USO looks solid. I mean, you know, so with that, right, with USO looking good, that's why I like HUSA. It's curling on up. Could it go a lot more? Yes. But it's, you know, is it already kind of, you know, getting overextended? Yeah, a little bit. $2 would be a better buy, but it's, you know, it's probably not going to come back down, at least unless they do an offering, or unless USO or oil has some negative news. And then we have USEG just did an offering. That's why I like that. I see that very similar chart here on USEG, but it kind of just did an offering, drop down. That's why I bought it. So there's some oil plays at least to look at. So let's see. PULM. This one was one, I remember someone mentioned it. The only problem with this one is that I do like it. Only issue here is that it's kind of, you know, it just spiked hard. So it spiked within the past like week, 100%. You know, when a stock spikes 100% in a week, I tend to stay away. But why would this be a potentially good area to be buying? Well, if we take a look right here, we can kind of, you know, draw in. I would say you can do like a rectangle. Let's draw a rectangle in here just because we can catch a couple of these tops. So we take a rectangle across some of these tops, and we draw this across the screen. Why is that important? Well, because prior area of resistance up in this, you know, $2 area, upper ones up to $2, was a prior area of resistance. So now on the way down, as PULM comes back down, yeah, could this area be support? And it looks like it's holding up decently as support. So that's actually not a terrible buy range, in my opinion, for PULM. Only thing here is that if you're going to play it like this, just be careful. Make sure you have a plan in place. You know, if you really believe in the company behind the scenes, that's going to set you up for a different type of trade than if you're trading based on technicals, based on momentum in a sector, right? So it's kind of a slightly different. There's so many different ways to trade stuff, and like the way that I found for me that works best is technicals first. Then we dive deeper into what's going on, what the company's got going on behind the scenes, cash, financials, that type of stuff. And then, of course, hot sector, money flow. Where's the money kind of pushing into right now? Right now, we've been seeing a lot of money pushing into the cannabis space, the crypto space, right? The blockchain, all that stuff. So those are some hot sector right now. EVs have been hot, but I think we'll probably get a full rotation back into EVs at some point again, where you see all those EV stocks just running on up. So that's what we're going to be watching, obviously, going forward. Let's see. So we have. Let's go through. I'm just going to go through my list. So if you guys want to take, you know, if you if you want one of these stocks that looks good, write it down. I'm not in all these stocks. I'll tell you which ones I am currently in, which ones I've traded before. But look at FTFT, right? FTFT, had this dip as Bitcoin kind of pulled back a little bit. And then ever since Bitcoin broke out of that downtrend that we were looking at, so here's Bitcoin, right? Let's pull up the daily chart for Bitcoin. We're looking at the daily charts for like all these stocks first, and then we can, of course, zoom in. But here's Bitcoin, right? Breaking out of this downtrend, pushing up, hitting new highs. But now FTFT, not hitting new highs. However, on Friday, it looked very, very strong. So this stock looks very strong. It closed up 32%, also up another 3%, just under 3% in the after hours session. So wouldn't be surprised for a gap up. This one, I would say probably $10 will be the first target in my eyes for FTFT, because kind of a whole easy to target kind of round solid number. And then we'll see what happens after that. SOS is another one that I like a lot, actually, or I wish I had bought some on Friday, to be honest, or post offering, when this thing kind of at least didn't kind of blow up. But SOS, look at this thing. So I did a video on the second channel on this guy. That's why I have all these lines in here. But the targets I have on SOS is up towards 9, then 10, then 13, then 18 in terms of prior chart resistance. That's what I'm looking at on SOS. And when it comes down to the miners that they have going on behind the scenes, a lot of people are trying to compare that to MARA, Riot. So this one could certainly be, a double-digit stock very, very soon, considering how, it's kind of crazy considering where it was a few, 3 weeks back. But again, look at the moves that we have on Mara and Riot. MARA, we go back, a few months ago, back into the summer months, this thing was under $1. Now it's at $40. That's this kind of the insanity that we're seeing with a lot of these stocks. So FTFT is one. Again, they're all going to have kind of it seemed like a lot of them pushed up pretty big on Friday. So let's see what happened. LGHL is another kind of unknown one that I've been liking a lot. It, again, also pushed up about $1 on Friday, which is, 30%. These are the types of moves that, I like to take my profits. Honestly, if I can, get a solid 30% move, I'm taking most of my profit off the table, and then I'm riding some shares. So I have some LGHL, but I was actually buying LGHL back in here. It pushed up. I don't know if I took any profits there, and then I rebought some on this dip, and then it pushed up again, and so I took some off, but I still want to see more. I think $5+ is not out of the question for LGHL. MFH, another one as well. MFH also popped up on Friday. So these are all stocks that I think have gap up potential. The only kind of reason why I didn't just go across the board and buy them all, or buy a piece of all of them on Friday, was because, realistically, right, they could gap up, but at the same time, what happens when Bitcoin, or if Bitcoin plummets down? If Bitcoin all of a sudden came plummeting on down, and, we don't know what's going to happen over the weekend, right? So that was my only kind of concern. So I was just kind of scaling some out, and I still have some shares. I bought some more Mara. I think it was kind of lagging behind Riot, so I do like that one as well. EBON, this is one that I think is somewhat lagging as well. For sure, I think this one is sitting way too low. But I bought this on the 50 SMA bounce, so down around the mid 5s is where I think I have an average. Popped up nicely, up over $1 on Friday, and it has range. This thing has some range back up towards 8, potentially $10 would be a decent target, at least in my eyes. So I'm probably going to be holding this guy for potentially a shot towards 10. That's at least what I'm thinking for EBON. WKEY. WKEY is another one that also has that correlation to Bitcoin as well. But look at this one again. Beautiful. A couple weeks back, right when Bitcoin was cooling off, 50 SMA bounce, boom, this thing is now over 10. So it made that run from the mid 6s to the mid 10s now, which I think we're going to see something very, very similar with EBON. That's why I think this is a solid one. I think there's still probably 25% plus in the tank here, even if Bitcoin just kind of hovers around like 50K for quite some time. I think there's still plenty of room in EBON. Now, that's just my take. SOS, we talked about a little bit. SOS, I think, is probably going to gap up pretty hard. $10 plus would not be out of the question. Let's see. RIOT is another one that has been blowing up. I'm not a huge fan of Riot up here because it's very overextended. Any pullbacks in Bitcoin, you're probably going to see a pretty significant pullback in Riot. So just be careful on that one. Buying dips, if you still are bullish on Bitcoin, buying dips here is your friend. I know people who are buying this thing and holding this one long term for the rest of the year. So That's a longer term swing. They fundamentally believe in the company. They believe in Bitcoin going to 100K, and they feel very strongly that Riot's going to be, a $100 stock in a couple of months. So it makes sense. I mean, it really comes down to how you want to play it. I mostly trade, so I'm not going to be buying and holding these things for, the next, month and a half, or really, I'm not going to be buying and holding these things and saying, yeah, I love the company. The way that I do it the best, for me, works best for me. Everyone's different. I take into account the chart first. That gives me the idea for the trade. The chart doesn't look good, I'm not going to buy it, right? Like Riot right now, I'm not going to buy Riot because it's way overextended. But Riot a couple weeks back, maybe on this dip, that was getting a little bit more interesting to me. And of course, I look through the companies, but at the end of the day, I am absolutely not getting attached, married to any of these companies. I could care less about them, not in a bad way. Not that I want them to do bad, right? But I could care less. I just trade what's in front of me, take my profits, and move on to the next one, and it just works a lot easier. The second I started to do that, really, it wasn't a second. It was kind of like it slowly kind of happened. My trading has progressed significantly from just literally not caring about the companies. One of the times that I did was back, months and years, even years ago, when you kind of get too obsessed and you start looking too deep. When you start doing that, you should do that to a degree to understand what's fundamentally going on, but then you're starting to you're messing with your emotions, the mental aspect of the trade, which people don't realize is huge. So I just don't, if the setup works great. For example, DPW, I don't really care about the company at the end of the day. They're in EVs, they're in Bitcoin mining, they do it all apparently, right? Do I really care? No, but I know that they're in a hot sector right now, so I'm gonna play it. And if this thing cracks below the 50 SMA, which is sitting at 450 right now, guess what? It goes down there for a day or two, I'm out. Simple as that. I don't care. Maybe it runs 3 days later, and it's happened to me so many times, but that's just how I play it. DXF, I believe, is another one that I was looking up a couple weeks back. This one could be setting up for a big move as well, because DXF is kind of sitting here, kind of have, let's see, a top line resistance up around this 175 that we're getting very, very close to pushing out and breaking above. So over this 175, would like to see $2 and then 220. So that's kind of the move to the upside. I would like to see, at least in this one. Would like to do a little more due diligence behind this one, but it's on my list. At least I must have put it there at some point when I was, researching some Bitcoin plays in the past. XNET, look at this guy, blowing up. This thing popped hard a couple weeks back, and then it kind of consolidated and it held support. So here's an example, though, for people who always ask me, saying, they always point out a stock that just spiked, right? Okay, if a stock just spikes, I'm not interested. But when do I get interested? After like a couple of days of this kind of sideways action, I start saying, okay, this stock is now holding up prior resistance as support because it came back down. It filled this little gap, right, holding up about this 350 or so as support. That's the entry that I would like to see, right? Then you can ride this thing back up for the second leg. If you're buying this thing on the day it pops or on the red day that it starts coming down, there's no guarantee. There's no saying that it's gonna just stop here and reverse. It could have come down towards $3. Yeah, are you gonna be willing to hold it down there? Is that your plan? If it is, that's great. If you don't want to miss out on a run, maybe that's where you start buying there. But you don't go into the full position up there. At least you want to see some more history. That's how I see it. BTBT as well. Another one that's also in my eyes lagging some of the Maras and the Riots. So I think BTBT could be a big lag play as well. From what I have noticed, I traded it last week. From what I've noticed is that it's like a day or it's like 12 hours or so behind like Mara and Riot or so. It seems like on the big moves. Now it hasn't been correlating perfectly with Riot because Riot had some recent news lately as well. So hasn't been correlating perfectly, but I still think that there's some room there to the upside. PHUN, another one as well that correlates. This one been pushing up quite a bit. So let's see if we can draw a trend line in here. Yeah, we kind of can. So here's it's a very extended trend line, but there's your rough trend line on PHUN. So not a terrible dip buy potentially on Friday for those who may have grabbed it. Just wouldn't want to see this one coming down below like 250, 225 or so. Probably my take on that one. AEHL is like a Chinese tile company, but they have some connection to Bitcoin. They may have PR'd it, or they may have mentioned blockchain on their website. That's why people are calling this a Bitcoin play. I don't think it really is a huge Bitcoin play, but it could run as a somewhat of a sympathy play, maybe. People are talking about NAKD as a Bitcoin play. I was like laughing at that, but at the end of the day, just take some guy on Twitter, right, with a bunch of followers to say that this is a Bitcoin play, and people are going to do it. People are going to follow it no matter what. So just understand that that's potentially why it may run as well. I'm just it's kind of crazy, but that's kind of the day and age that we're in. Then NXTD, we talked about it as well. NXTD, if Bitcoin pushes over 50K, I think NXTD makes a shot over this $2.50. So that's at least my thoughts. Should have sold Riot on Friday. Yeah, maybe because if Bitcoin pushes higher, it's probably going to go higher, right? If Bitcoin, I think 50K is the big number. I think over 50K and the party can really get started for a lot of these other plays for continuations. Even the ones that are overextended, they're still going to go. But if it comes back and just can't break that 50K for, maybe it comes back down into the mid 40s and holds there for a couple weeks. Who knows? If that happens, then you're probably going to see some of these overextended plays come back down, maybe put in a higher low and consolidate higher. So Riot, for example, I think is potentially one of those that may come back down into like the 40 range or something like that if Bitcoin doesn't continue to push up. But we'll see. We'll see. Do you know any paper trading platforms I can trade all products? All I know in terms of paper trading platforms that I have personally used myself is Webull and TD Ameritrade. I know TD Ameritrade's better in terms of they allow options and some more things than Webull's paper trading at least does right now. But so if you want a better paper trading platform, it's probably TD Ameritrade. Webull, the reason why I love Webull and why I use it is just because of the 4 a.m. trading. You just can't beat that. I don't really trade OTC, so I have a TD Ameritrade account for an OTC play here or there. But I would recommend maybe check TD Ameritrade. I don't know the super specifics about the TD Ameritrade paper trading platform, but there are other like third-party kind of paper trading platforms out there as well. I just don't know of anything that's stood out, to be honest. I've seen a few that just didn't look great, so I don't know. I don't really know if there's got to be something, but I'm not super familiar with it. Let's see. Yeah, the TD Ameritrade on-demand option is really cool because you can go back and trade a stock on demand. Like, let's say you want to go back to like a day that, like, for example, like DPW. I'm just randomly kind of pulling up DPW, but DPW, right? The day that it had news, it had a press release and it ran up. So you can go back to November 23rd and then play out DPW, like play out the trade on DPW as if it was happening now on like a paper trading platform, which is really cool because now you can start to see and kind of get really familiar with kind of how a stock moves and its patterns and what it does, which is, I think it's really helpful to be able to do that. So if you're, especially for day traders, that's huge. I mean, I think the on-demand feature for a day trader is just massive in terms of being able to learn. Go back and trade the runner of the day every single day. If you want to get good at day trading, I'm mostly a swing trader. For those who are jumping in, who are new, who don't know traditionally what I do, mostly a swing trader. That could change as market conditions change. Right now, swings are great. Eventually, you're going to get to a point in the summer like last year, and who knows, maybe it doesn't happen. But last summer, swings were not good from like, I would say end of July through like August, September, and like half of October. Swings were not the move. So that's where maybe this year I'll be more prepared for taking day trades, scalps, stuff like that, lowering my percentage goals for the week, not looking to hit home runs, but take my small gains and move on and kind of just stay afloat, stay alive, preserve my capital for a few months. Because, if we have a similar period come December, January, February next year, if this happens again, that's a time that you want to play in penny stocks. This is a very hot market. Now, right now, it's like there's no penny stocks left. When I say penny stocks, everyone's got a different classification on that. I'm talking small cap, low float stocks, generally under like $5. Now I'm getting to the point where I'm playing stocks that are over $5, just because there's not too many super low price stocks left that are sitting at kind of bottomed out supports. But one of those, ASMB, is someone I saw in the comments. Here's one that I like a lot. 50 SMA bounce. You guys know I love the 50 SMA for swing trading on the daily chart. The MA50 on Webull. The same thing, I question about that too. When I say simple moving average versus moving average, it's the same thing on the daily chart that I'm looking at here. And so it might be, some brokers might say, 50 SMA, some may say MA50 like Webull does. So I'm sitting here at it's at $6 is the 50 SMA. The stock's at 630. I think that's 30-cent downside risk here is solid. Yeah, could it come below? For sure. But I think this thing is going to have a couple dollar move to the upside. Plus that's a gap to fill, and they have like over $200 million cash. So their cash standing is great. I believe when I was looking, they had cash that they plan to be able to get them through 2022. So they got enough cash at least for quite some time. So right here's one of those types of plays, right? We have a gap fill. Do the gaps always get filled? Absolutely not. But, when traders see this, especially with the news, they come out, they had earnings, they come out with news saying that they're moving away from one of their more promising trials or one of their more promising things they had in the pipeline. So they say that they come out and they said that they're moving away from that. Stock plummets down. Sure. But at some point, right, the memory of traders and investors is kind of shift where it's like, I'm someone who's looking at this chart now saying, okay, cool, right? That was the past. What do we got in the future? What else do you have going on? Because they got more in the pipeline. Okay, let's hear about what you got. What promising things do you have? And that's when a company comes out and says, hey, we want to, provide value to our shareholders. Here's what we have going forward. Here's what you should be excited about. Boom, drop a press release. The thing pops. That's what I'm here for. That's all I'm here for. I don't make many 4 a.m. trades. The reason why I love the Webull 4 a.m. option is simply because I like to sell. So what I like to do to sell is if I buy a stock or if I'm in a couple stocks that have momentum into the close on one day, I have my order set ahead of time so that if it's like, for example, SOS, is one of those that I was saying, hey, look at SOS closing up here towards the high of the day. I think SOS probably is someone that could gap up. So if I bought on Friday, I'd buy a little bit, maybe set some sells at like $8, $8.50, $9. Set those sells ahead of time so that if at 4 a.m., all of a sudden Bitcoin's pushing up over 50K, everyone wants into SOS, well, that price is going to spike up quick. My sells will get hit. I'll take my profits and then move on. So that's kind of the idea of the 4 a.m. trading. But you many times get a quick spike, and then you kind of see the price action kind of fall off until about 7 a.m. Eastern, and that's when most brokers open up for pre-market trading, and then that's when you see a lot more volume start coming in. So that's kind of how I generally do it. Oh yeah, so the hollow, this is actually really important. I think people need to understand this too. So the hollow candles versus solid candles, so in my candle settings, my line style settings, I could just go to just red and green candles. But I like to use hollow candles just because it gives me a better sense to what actually happened that day. So a green, they're a little bit different. And actually, you know what? I do have this somewhere. Here it is. Not super big. Let me actually, I wish I could make it bigger. But, okay. The candle situation, I'll just put up here. If someone wants a screenshot, you can maybe zoom in. But, so a hollow green is up on the day. So obviously, if it's a green candle, it's up on the day compared to the prior day close. But a hollow green means it opened at the bottom of this hollow green and it closed at the top of the hollow green. Now the wick, that little straight line is the range of the day. It means it hit up there at some point during the normal trading hours, but it didn't actually close at that point. Where it closed was at the top of that kind of closed square, I guess, rectangular candle. Solid green, it was a green day overall. The stock's up on the day. However, from when the stock opened at 9:30 a.m. to when it closed at 4 p.m. Eastern, the stock actually came down during those hours. And then a red solid, or a red solid, means the stock was down on the day, but it actually closed lower than the stock opened. So it was down, but it also ended the day lower than where it opened at 9:30. And then a hollow red is the stock was down on the day compared to the day prior. However, it actually closed higher than where it opened at 9:30. So that's kind of what the candles mean, the hollow candles. You don't have to use them. I like them over just the regular kind of green and reds because I can get a better sense as to what actually happened on certain days. Like, okay, was this a big, if you can go back and see some types of big spikes, That's why the wicks are really important because, okay, cool. This stock hit up to $4 on this day. However, it actually closed at like $3. So it was a spiky kind of day. It tells more of a story, I think, at least to me. So that's why I use it. Nept ran in pre-market. Yeah, I don't know. Earnings tomorrow. I'm not going to mess around. I don't mess around with earnings. Like WWR was one that had earnings. Nept has earnings tomorrow, I believe, or Tuesday, whatever it is. So I don't mess with that. That's why I sell and take it. That's the thing is I feel bad. That's that was one of the reasons why I left Robinhood. For this, I still have an account. Whatever people can say what you want to say. I have an account with some money in there. But one of the biggest reasons why I left it was simply that I got screwed over. Look at this, we got a little buddy coming in. I got screwed over with a pre-market trade where I was up big. The stock ran. It had news. It was up 100%, but I couldn't sell. And then come 9:30 or come 9 a.m. Eastern when Robinhood opened up, I missed out on a lot of gains. So it's good to have for I like to use that if you want to mess around with some longer term swings or something like that, where you're not looking to worry about the pre-market hours action. But if you're looking at like a penny stock type of deal, generally I don't like to trade those in Robinhood unless I have significant, conviction on this is a stock that's going to, double, triple in value and will hold that value longer term. 95% of the penny stocks I play, they don't. So that's why I pretty much trade them on Webull only. Let's see. Selling before open is usually the best time. Usually before the open, you have the most, you kind of get the most inflation in the price. And then usually when the market opens, many times you see like a freak out panic sell for a lot of stocks. Yeah. Let's see. Let's see. Yeah, I'm using Webull. ASMB at 690 tanked. But here's the thing though. For me, everyone has different kind of risk tolerance and risk management, but ASMB, hit up to $7. That's currently a resistance for right now, and that's the high that it's hit, right, as of late, right? It hasn't actually, $7 is the number we got to break to the upside. So $7 gets us back into the gap, and then things get started. So this is one of those absolute patience plays where you don't want to be messing, I'm not going to be freaking out about this guy. Could it come down? Yeah. For me, maybe the trade is going to be that 50 SMA. If it can't hold that 50 SMA and starts falling below that and holds below it, maybe that's the signal for me to get out. That's just kind of my take on that. But I think this is a patience play. And with a stock over $5, I'm much more willing to let this thing kind of come up and down $1 to $2, $1.50 or so, as long as I still have a plan in place. So $6 is probably my area. So I liked it a couple days back as it started to break out over this 50 SMA, pushed up. Now it's pulling back. That's a good spot, at least traditionally, for me to be reloading or loading up and buying into this one. Another reason too is that if you're buying this thing at $7, cool, right? That's fine. But just understand that this is why I always love to have cash available, and I really never go in full position unless it's a higher price stock that I know is not going to move as kind of volatile as a penny stock, or I'm trying to get out of a bad trade. So I did this with GEVO when they did a dirty midnight offering a couple months back in the summer. I love talking about this one because it's a super fun example. So GEVO, right, had this push up, kind of came back, was respecting the 50 SMA, then not GEVO, was it GEVO? Yeah, it had to be this one. Sorry, I got to go back here. Yeah, okay, similar. It was right here, respecting the 50 SMA. It was back here in June, and then boom, starts falling below. And I should have cut it a couple days after it fell below this line. I didn't do it though, because I wanted to see if it would hold $1. And then they did a dirty midnight offering. The stock comes down, opens up the next day at like 40 cents, 45 cents. And so that's when I said, okay, I had cash available. I went full position into GEVO. And then GEVO recovers, and I was able to sell for a profit, that was a crazy trade. But that's why I love having cash on the side, so that I can always get myself out of a bad position. Because this way, my average was horrible, but I was able to get my average down. My average was up around $1. I was able to get the average down towards like 75 cents or so. And then when the stock pushed up, it hit up over 80 cents. So I was green. So, that's why. That's what I did. And that's why I love having cash. That's why right now I'm more than half cash. For sure. Let's see. day trading with 1,000 account, I think you can certainly do it. I mean, I started really, what worked best was swing trading. If you're going to day trade with $1,000 account, I think what's best is you probably want to have a cash account. I know it's not the most fun because my biggest thing, I think that was a huge kind of limiting factor, at least for me, was when I was worried about taking day trades. Now, yeah, okay, I would mostly swing trade still back then, but I would be like a little bit scared of buying dips or buying into a stock, because when I'm buying into a stock, when I'm buying dips, and I'm like, well, what if the stock drops below my support? I got to be able to cut this stock. And so if I'm cutting the stock, I got to take a day trade if I was to average down or buy the stock that day. So, that's kind of one of those things. Like, so I went to a cash account, no worry of having the PDT rule, and, never looked back since then. Now, of course, I'm still sitting with a cash account well over the PDT requirements. So what I'm planning on doing is in March, taking like a full week off, going all cash, selling everything, taking an entire week off from trading, at least in that account. I'll probably trade on my TD Ameritrade or my longer term swings and maybe the IRA just for some fun, but pretty much a full week off from like the active swing trades that I take on a lot of penny stocks, and then, transition my account back to margin. This way I have absolutely no requirements to meet in terms of the day trade requirements and whatnot. So there's no restrictions. Let's take a peek at some crypto. Ethereum. Let's take a peek. Look at this. Ethereum is just, at those highs. I think 2,000 is probably not out of the question for this guy. But look at this. The past couple of months, this thing is a beast. So if you went to the kind of the alternate kind of coin, I guess, side from the mainstream Bitcoin, there's a lot more money to be made in those things. Now, I'm not a Bitcoin expert by any means, but look at this. From November to now, I mean, the thing was up from $500. It's like 3x from where it was, which is crazy. So I mean, I would never probably buy this. I mean, unless you had some, but that's that. Honest question on UVXY. What would you do? So UVXY personally, here's why I like it. I have VXX calls. I'm willing to take the L and let them expire worthless if they do, but that's just kind of how I decided to do it. That's why I went with the calls on VXX instead of shares. Because if I go with shares, it ties up more capital, and I don't want to do that. So I bought calls, and if we get the move in the next couple of weeks, then I'll make some money, or in the next week, I guess, because I have them out to next week. So we'll see. But the reason why is because we're literally at resistance on the S&P. Now, could we just kind of slowly kind of sit up here and like not move too much and kind of just grind up around this level? Yeah. But could we also just come plummeting down or have a pretty big flush day? Yeah, I think that's also a very possible as well. So that's what I have. We're at. I mean, I would still hold them. I wouldn't, because what's going to end up happening, and I did it before too, is the second I felt comfortable, the second I said, I guess my VXX play didn't work out. I've done it before. That same day that I sold my contracts, VXX popped. So look at VXX. It's the same thing. UVXY, VXX. They're similar. Some are going to move more than others, but they're hitting new lows here, at least recently, on VXX. But what happened was I ended up selling on, I believe it was like one in here, like the 25th or 26th. It popped, and then like look at that. It went from 1650 to 22 in like 2-3 days. That's why I have $17 calls right now, because if we do get a big flush, and it may not be a huge, massive end of the world thing for the S&P, but if it's a big down day, 1 or 2 days, big down days, my VXX will spike, and then I'll take my profits out of there and I'll roll them into buying dips on my swings that I like. That's just kind of my take. That's the option play that I'm actually in. It's VXX calls, which essentially is just going after some volatility and going after some fear in the market that I think may happen, but at the end of the day, I mean, who knows? I'm not in huge on them though, but that's why I bought calls though, so that if we do get a crazy move, I cash in a little bit bigger than if I had just shares. So, and I don't have to tie up as much cash. Naked calls on SPY. I mean, I could see the only thing that's crazy with SPY is that like we still got stimulus coming too, right? So what is that going to do? Is it going to be kind of a sell the news once stimulus gets passed? Is it going to be a sell the news, buy the rumor, sell the news type of thing? Maybe, but that's just kind of at least what we're seeing. We're at resistance right now. We'll see if it can break through, and then maybe hit 400. If we can hit 400 on SPY this week, that would be insane. But it can certainly happen. You know. Let's see. SNDL. Everyone's got a question on SNDL. I am not in SNDL anymore after the big move. But here's the thing. I think SNDL could steady up around this $2 area. If it does, that could be a spot to be looking. But I want to see some history on SNDL. I do not want to just be blindly buying SNDL here. Here's the thing that I think is also tough for people to understand. SNDL, the move really happened, I would say, from the end of 2020. If you got in early 2021, you're fine. But if you missed out on some of that move, I wouldn't be going in massive on SNDL right now. Let it play out, let it cool off. It just went to over $4, and it went to almost $5 in the pre-market hours. I think like $4.87 pre-market hours a couple days ago. Be careful with that. I mean, the majority of the moves happen, and it's getting a lot of attention, a lot of press, and there's even some bad press on CNBC that I've been seeing lately too. Well, whether that means anything or not, there's other plays. I mean, like this thing went from 50 cents to over $4. There's other plays that are going to do that in the near term. It's more fun, I think, to find the play before this happens, right? To be getting into SNDL back in here and have fun riding it on up. It's more fun to be that guy than to be the guy who's buying it now thinking like, okay, yeah, it's gonna go to $6 because somebody told me that there's a $6 price target or like a $10 price target or $5, and it hits 487 and it just didn't hit 5, but you're still thinking it's gonna hit 5 as the thing comes back down to 2. Just my take. Be careful on that a little bit. Congrats on the 2 week. Yeah, the past 2 weeks have been good. That's why I'm not trying to be going crazy on the next couple of weeks. I mean, I'm being cautiously a dip buyer here because I would love to go heavier onto some dip buy plays if the market comes down hard, but yet to kind of see that happen. So that's where I would be going. I would feel more comfortable going more cash in the market. Got an early but held for the dump. Yeah, well, that's the other thing too. Is if you got in early on SNDL and you took some profits or whatever, but you're still up massive. So this is a different story. There could be the guy who's in from like under $1, who's we're up at $2. They're still fine. But if you're buying it at 2 and your average is at 2, it's a different story. Thoughts on ZOM? Let's take a peek. Yeah, this thing is sitting. It's got to break over $3. If it can't break over 3, I would say $2 support, $3 resistance for right now on ZOM. So that's my take. They have the product launch on the 30th of March. There's plenty of time. I'm curious to see what happens because if it was me, right? Not if it was me, but traditionally, right? You play the run up into a launch like that, and if it was, I guess, in years prior, the type of move ZOM made. This wouldn't have happened last year at this time. No, it wouldn't have happened. There's just a lot of new people in the market. There's a lot more kind of social media aspect. There's a lot of videos I saw, on people not pumping ZOM, but, hyping it up. I traded ZOM when it was kind of a POS, back in the day when this thing would just kind of do the same little thing, and all of a sudden it took until now to make the run. But I guess they got the product launch, so we'll see what happens, obviously. I would love to see what happens into the launch. I would not be holding through the launch though, personally. If this thing pops over 3 in the next month, I would not be holding this thing through the 20th of March when they have the launch, I believe. Just personally, my take. I've held through too many launches in the past. EVFM has been one of them. EVFM actually has recovered beautifully, which was awesome. But EVFM was one right in here. Here's the move. Let's draw in some lines. Here's the trend line, pushing up, feeling really good. Product launch, boom, plummets. The product launch was like right in here in early September, plummets right down, down $1, like that. So and especially because ZOM's up a lot. Like EVFM had kind of been gapped down, grinding back on up, pushed up, hit up towards 4, and then was at 2 like within a week. So just be careful on ZOM. ZOM has a lot more room down, percentage-wise, I think. UK, what do we got? UK. Oh yeah, UK was on my list a couple days ago. It's still on my list actually. I'm not in it right now, but I think it has a nice little gap up here over this. Gotta get to like 4+. Over 4, I think it makes a run towards 5. I do like this kind of bottomed out setup. Would like to dive a little bit deeper. So one of those bottomed out plays, there's not many of them out there, I'll tell you that. But one of the ones that I've dove a little bit deeper is ASMB. They got plenty of cash, 200+ million in cash through 2022. They're at least claiming. So 50 SMA bounce. I like this one more out of a bunch of the oversold bottom plays. It's going to be a patience play though, because a lot of these oversold plays are very, they take some time. And so, for example, OVID was one that I'm still in, but I think this has more range, but I scaled a good chunk of it out, was back in it down here, grinding on up over $1. Now it's kind of, setting up, potentially flagging, getting ready to put the next move in. It's got some support here around 325 or so. So I do like that one for a potential move up. But again, this one's been weeks, right? Been in this one since probably early January, and it's been about a month. So yeah, does the amount of time I'm gonna trade vary? Yeah, it depends, right? I ideally don't want to be in these stocks like super long, but on a stock like this, a bottomed out play like this, your risk reward is great, and so it's a lot different, right? I'm willing to hold this one longer if it's going to continue to put in higher lows and slowly grind its way back on up. I'm willing to go in a little bit bigger and hold it a little bit longer personally. CRKN. This guy we have putting in higher lows. Okay, it's got a little gap. It's just got a gap. This is very weird looking chart. What do we got? What do we have here? Technology for smart or dynamic glass. That's actually interesting. I do kind of like that potential play. I'll pull up their site. Just get a quick look. And I always recommend you do this too. Make your glass smarter. Okay, that's cool. I mean, there's probably a lot more deeper down behind this one. Dynamic tint, so it retro. Okay, so it's low voltage solar options, energy efficient glass. That's actually a really cool take. So this one's something that hasn't been found. I mean, obviously look at where it's at. I mean, I don't know what happened right here. They had a reverse split 1 for 3, but there's probably more behind the scenes. This one could be a good play. I mean, I do kind of like the idea. HJLI, yes, I am in HJLI. Let's see. We're sitting. Yeah, HJLI came down towards $7, and it's sitting down here about $7. It has room down. It has prior support below that point. It has prior support down towards like 625, even down towards 525. But I think it's going to hold up here. And they love to drop news all the time on updates on what they have going on. So I like this one a lot, where it's sitting at. I think I have an average around 730. That's why I currently have an average. They did an offering. That's why they have a gap down. And offering gap down buys have been beautiful as of late, personally. I mean, that's just been a beautiful play. Let's see. CRBP. CRBP is an interesting guy. Let's see. Yeah, okay. So CRBP, the whole cannabis sector has had its big ups and it's pulled back. The thing with this one is that this one is not like it's a medical cannabis play, so I get it. I was in it, I made a killing on this one, the past like month, but I'm out of it right now because I actually sold too early. I sold up in the mid 2s or mid 3s, something like that. Hit 4, but the 200 SMA is currently a resistance, which is up around $4. So it's got to clear over 4 for a bigger move, but it has a big gap. Here's the thing though. When it comes to a big gap fill, I'm not going to be the one to sit here and say that this entire gap is going to get filled, right? I'm going to take my chunk of the gap and I'm going to move on. So if you're someone who got in the mid 1s, this thing goes up to 4, you're not going to sell. You're not going to buy it all at 1 and sell it all at 4. I understand that. But if you're taking and scaling out profits along the way, you should be up about 100% on your trade, or at least 50+% on that trade, minimum, depending on how you're scaling out. And you're locking your gains in. That's in my book, that's a beautiful trade, and I'm moving on to the next one. Yeah, if this one comes back down, maybe hold support here at 250 and comes back down, and maybe I'll take a shot there. Yeah, but I think at some point you got to take your profits and move on. I mean, this one I've been seeing a lot of people kind of not pumping, but kind of pumping in a sense where it's like they keep pushing this one every single day. It's like, okay, guys, and it keeps the stock afloat for now. But I mean, how much more is it going to have? That's why these stocks have, and SNDL is one of those too. It came down hard, very fast. Tilray, came down hard as well, which is, kind of led the sector, but that's that. ASMB, I think it's going to be good. I think ASMB is going to be good. DPW, I am in. DP Dubs. I mean, this chart looks beautiful for DPW, so I'm in it. And it has it's EV and crypto space related, so I love that a lot. What else we got? What do we got? TMBR. TMBR was one that I've been seeing a lot of. I think I missed the boat on TMBR. Yeah, I definitely did. TMBR over this 150, 160 would have been great because we had some prior resistance up there. I actually remember playing in TMBR, I believe, back in the day, back in here for some of these spikes. It's been a fun one, and now it's kind of, of course, like you're seeing a lot of charts for a lot of penny stocks, bottomed out, and then eventually just higher lows, and then it's like just straight up as of late. This one could go a lot more. It has a range, but it's up a lot. So, personally, I'm not interested in taking a position there, but it doesn't mean that it can't keep going. And then TNXP. Let's pull up that bad boy. Similar thing. TNXP, though, here's the thing. It's got resistance. If you go back to some of these highs, it's going to have some resistance up in the low twos, and it's going to have more resistance up around 250. So that's what I would be watching for right here, 250 or so. 246. So it's getting up there. I would say $2, 215, 210 is going to be key. And then if it can get over 250, awesome for the next move on that one. Fubo, I like a lot. But I missed the dip on Thursday. I would have loved to grab that on Thursday. I think under $50 is still good on Fubo. I made the mistake on Fubo, and I didn't hold my initial investment on Fubo because I actually just bought it as a longer term swing or a longer term, kind of holding, and I bought that back at like $9, so $9.50 or something like that. Yeah, and I sold it at like 15 or something like that. So, yeah, I feel you. This thing hits. I think I would get back in for more of a trade now. I wouldn't want to be buying and hold this one as an investment. At least personally, that's just me. I like to be buying the bottoms of stuff. That's why I have a bunch of SPACs in my longer term swing account. A bunch of SPAC plays. Clove is one. I have one Clove in there. I have UWMC is one of them. I think it's just getting close to bottoming out at some point. What else do I have? I forget. I have a bunch of other ones as well, but those are some solid ones. Yeah, Clove's been a pain, but I'm just gonna hold it here at this point. It's not. It's the thing with Clove is though it's like, you can sell it. This is a month to year horizon plan from my eyes. So it's in my long term, and I'm not really worried about it. So I'll literally keep buying this thing until I have reason to believe that fundamentally this is no longer going to be of value anymore. And eventually, if that comes along, I'll cut it. But for now, I think you're getting in pretty low. I think the risk reward is great longer term. It's just if you're willing, if you're going to be getting pissed about the move in the past month, cool. Look what happened with FSR. FSR has got a new price target, so it made a big pop. But FSR, pushed up, fell back off, and it went from like mid-September hitting up here over $17-18 from mid-September all the way until like the end of October, a month and a half of just like steady, like just downtrend. It was just like a horrible to watch, and then it blew up. So, but even that blow up took about a month for that thing to make a full move to where it hit those highs. So that's how I kind of see Clove in a sense. CBAT. Yeah, I do like this chart setup too. I've been looking for like similar setups. CBAT, Solo, AYRO are all like similar chart, and even DPW. They're all very similar chart. I like this one. I honestly would have taken an entry on this one. I just didn't want to take too many positions on Friday. I would ideally love to see a dip in the overall market. Then I'd buy CBAT. May or may not happen, but I still like it. But so like what I was saying is Solo, for example, an EV play. CBAT is, I guess, not a pure EV play, but in a similar sector, I guess. And so Solo sitting at the 50 SMA right here, beautiful, very similar chart. Look at AYRO. I didn't realize, someone pointed out, which I appreciate. So AYRO, we're sitting here, all of a sudden the thing spikes up on, I forget what day it was. It was like a Wednesday. And this was my largest position at the time. And this is a very similar chart. It was my largest position at the time, and it spikes up, it halts. Like the stock pushed up, the market came down Wednesday, I believe, and then it just halts. And I'm like, what happened? It was a volatility halt. So it was like a 10-minute halt. And then it opens back up, and then it starts hitting my price targets. And then all of a sudden I'm like, well, I just killed it on AYRO. It was because, if you guys know the YouTuber Dead Inside, and here's the thing, one of the things that I need to probably do better on is like actually paying attention to that stuff more. I don't watch many people on YouTube. I mean, whether that's good or bad, I just don't, not that I don't have time. I do it sometimes to get a sense of what people are talking about and stuff, but I don't, I do kind of my own thing. And so he talked about it, and he said it was like a double from here potentially. He liked it, and all of his followers just freaking hammered that thing, slapped it, everyone market bias at the same exact time. The thing went nuts. Yeah, that's actually hilarious that you bought it right before it's spiking. But yeah, I mean, that's what happened. So that's just kind of the reality of kind of what's, of the space these days. And that's kind of, what could happen. So like personally for me, like I'll never, never going to be doing that for like one stock. Personally, I will never make a video on one stock like that and then say I'm buying this thing. I think it's going to 2x or triple because of that potential. I'd rather talk about a stock that I like, talk about a bunch. So it's not like, focus everyone, people in on one stock. At the same time, I think doing that at night, doing that on the weekends is also best. Just like it gives people a chance to actually look at it, build their plan, and then, if they like it, they can enter. So I don't know. It's a weird thing, but at the end of the day, I mean, it's not technically illegal, I guess, to a degree. It depends upon how you do it. If you're profiting and you're selling into that spike, I think it's technically illegal if you're pumping it. But that's just kind of the nature of the game. What do we got? HUSA, USCG. Yes, I love USCG right here. Post offering, thing bounced right back down and pushed back up. So, I like this thing to fill the gap up to 6. So I think a solid, 1.50 cent to $1 move is certainly in the cards. So we're going to see how that one goes. Sngx Catalyst. I'll take a peek at Sngx. How is this chart looking? Okay, so this is one of those where it bottoms out and then it kind of pushes up and has that second leg. It's in that second leg right now, but it has a lot of room up. Could it come back up towards $3? I think it's certainly possible, but it pushed up in the after hours up towards 2.6. So it's actually already up here. For me, that's just, I don't know. It would have been, we must have talked about it in a prior live. Back in here would have been beautiful. I didn't personally take the position. Was in a lot of plays. There's like I always said, there's always another play. Always another play. But that was a beautiful, for those who were able to grab it down here in the under 150, that was a beautiful play. Yeah, I don't trade OTC. People can, if you want to comment OTC tickers and have no thoughts or no posts or reasoning behind that, I'm just not going to respond to it. I don't think anyone's going to have any impact on a stock price by just typing in a ticker symbol in a chat like this. So, that's just my take. People can do it. I just don't care. I'm not going to mention them. If you're going to put reasoning behind a ticker, then I'll look at it and I'll give it a thought, but that's the name of the game. So I'm probably going to wrap things up for very soon here, because this is kind of like our precursor to tomorrow's live. We're going to do a live tomorrow. I'll come with my whole list. Today was kind of like more of a Bitcoin live. So if you go back to the beginning of the live, the first 20, 30 minutes, I would say, we were mostly talking about Bitcoin stocks, how Bitcoin's looking. And Bitcoin is, still up there. It's fairly strong. It's hit up it hasn't hit 50K yet, so we'll see. But we talked about a bunch of those stocks we're watching going forward. So we'll see what happens with Bitcoin this week. And then this is the list. Where is it? Where is that Bitcoin list? Here it is. If you wanted a screenshot or something, on the left-hand side is at least a bunch of stocks that correlate to the crypto sector that I have on my list. There's plenty more, I'm sure. These are the ones that at least I have that I like the most personally. So HITI didn't sell, dipping. Yeah, starting to get traction on Reddit. Okay, that's interesting. That's key, because Reddit is going to be, Reddit nowadays has a big pull. SENS. This is one that actually I want to talk about quick before we jump out, because I actually haven't looked at this one too much since. It's up a lot though, so this is one that's up a lot. I would have to look a little bit deeper into what's going on behind the scenes here, why people like it a lot, but I've gotten a lot of people who've been mentioning it, so I thought that it's interesting at least to point out. But it's getting up towards resistance, up in this $4 to $5 range is going to be strong resistance, chart wise, so that's going to be key. Would you sell NXTD? Personally, I am out of NXTD right now because I kind of am nimble on how I trade it. If Bitcoin runs hard, it's going to probably go again. It just correlates to Bitcoin. So I got someone who asked me too, why is NXTD a Bitcoin play? When it comes down to it, why is NAKD a Bitcoin play? It's the same exact thing. I see people on Twitter talking about how NAKD is a Bitcoin play. Like, what? How? But they must have PR. They have somewhere they must talk about blockchain or Bitcoin or crypto in some press release or at some point on their website. And so a lot of times with a lot of penny stocks, that's all you need, and so that's why these stocks correlate and they run with Bitcoin, and it did in the past. And so people and traders are following that same sympathy idea through the next setup. So NXTD, you got to watch Bitcoin. I would love NXTD down here around 150, or if it can go below, even better. That's where I would love NXTD. Up towards 2 is getting a little more obviously risky, but if Bitcoin breaks over 50K, I can see NXTD breaking over 250 and going towards 3. That's just kind of my take on that. Bitcoin Cash. What do we got? Do we have? Let's see. I don't know if I can pull up Bitcoin Cash. I definitely can. Well, I didn't know they have all these Forex things too. Bitcoin to the Hong Kong dollar. I didn't realize Webull has a lot. You can't trade this, but I think you can at least look at some of these things. That's interesting. And also TSNP is one too. This one I believe you could now trade on Webull. So this is interesting. A lot of OTC plays, I believe, right? This is an OTC still, I believe. You can't trade on Webull, but I believe they're actually rolling out a couple OTC plays. So that's something to notice. SOS is a good Bitcoin play. I like SOS. I think this is going to be a $10 play at some point. It's sitting, $2.50 below, so we'll see. PPSI or Naked. I'm not a big fan of Naked, but I traded last week. PPSI looks like it maybe looking like it's flagging here, kind of putting in higher lows. So this could be a decent spot to maybe look to grab some if it can hold up around the $7. If it can't, 660 seems to be support, double bottom support for right now. This chart looks pretty good for a potential move. NAKD is probably not. I'm not a huge fan, but it could run. I could see it running. I'm not a huge fan of it though. I traded it if it comes back down towards like $1 ish, under 125. That's a better spot in my eyes on NAKD. So that is that. I'm going to wrap things up, guys, because we're going for about an hour. So tomorrow we'll do like a full hour and a half-ish, kind of maybe 2 hours, depending upon how it is. Talking about everything. We'll talk about futures. We'll give that kind of time to settle in. We'll talk about futures. We'll talk about how Bitcoin is doing and what to be looking at come Tuesday morning, because we got a short week. So, not going to be swinging for the fences this coming week by any means after how crazy the past couple weeks have been. Market's kind of sitting up there towards resistance, the overall market. So just, be cautious there. I'm a cautious dip buyer. I have a lot of cash on hand. So if we get dips, boom. Last but not least, I'll just put up JE. I've seen that a couple times. JE, yes, it's got support down towards like 650. So I could see this thing holding up maybe where it's at. It looks like it may want to. I played it before. I think I played it a couple weeks ago for this big move. It's got to get back up over 8 or 9 for a bigger move towards 10. It's got some resistance up here, though, so it's going to have to grind through. But it does look like it's putting in higher lows and consolidating fairly decently right around this point right now. So, appreciate you guys for jumping in and joining out on the stream. I really thank you guys so much for doing so. We're going to have this again tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern. And we'll be going over pretty much everything that's going on. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. I will see you in tomorrow's stream. Hit the thumbs up button on the way out. Thanks.